section to watch back all of the action from this week in Nottingham. You put your hands together for the all-world crew up on the balcony there. Charlie Eisen, Aidan Shapiro later, Kelly Russin on the camera, and our camera operators either end of the field, working great and keeping all of the action coming to you around the world. Get yourselves an all-world subscription to enjoy all of that action when you get home, and you can share the excitement of the World Under-24 Ultimate Championship from Nottingham with your friends and family when you get home. As this is a WFDF finals day, we are contractually obliged to have some rain. captains have flipped this. USA won the flip and opted to start from the grandstand end of the field. Japan will start at the hockey centre end of the field. USA will be receiving the disc. Japan will start on defense. Once again, thank you very much for coming to Nottingham. You're welcome. It wouldn't be a British frisbee tournament unless there's a little bit of weather. We are 7 minutes away from the start of the women's division final. Thank you very much, all of you who stayed here. You are the proper Autumn fans. Give yourselves a massive round of applause. We're sticking out in the rain. The players are going to play in the left. We can spectate in the left.
Put his way down the field. He jacks it to Brown. Janet chasing. Too far. Brown trying to toe this one. And he doesn't.
To this semi-final, and Ryan Lee sprinting into the end zone.
She opens up a huge backhand arcing across the field, and that's a break for Colombia.
Can we hear it for our two finalists?
Women, men, non-binary friends, welcome to the WFDF World Under-24 Ultimate Championships here from a wet, soggy Nottingham for what has been a spectacular week of Ultimate, and it shows no sign of stopping, both the Ultimate that is and maybe some of the weather we've had. It is Benjamin Rees alongside Rachel Douglas for the women's final, and it promises to be a scorcher. It's USA taking on Japan.
Both these teams coming through maybe a little bit comfortably in the semi-finals. USA seeing off Germany 15-10, sorry, and Japan meeting Canada in the semis, seeing them off 15-5. Of course, the story of this women's bracket play has been that quarter-final against Australia for Japan. Such a tight game, so incredible to see. 15-13, Japan being put under pressure for the first time really in this tournament, and now facing off against the USA, the first seeds, and it's going to be surely another battle for them.
Yeah, the only game that the United States has ever lost in their time attending this event, both as under-24s and back when it was under-23s, was in the final in 2015 against, you guessed it, Japan. Let's have a quick look then, as you mentioned, at those semi-finals. Here are highlights from that 15-10 win over the Germans for America. Ava Müller was once again exceptional. Her throws, such a weapon, 8 assists and a goal. But in the end, it was not enough as the US just built up an early lead and kind of steadily just paced themselves towards victory with that 15-10 final score. And after that rollicking Australian quarter-final, they came up against a Canada side that would have been looking to cause serious problems. But Japan were immense, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. Japan just didn't seem to be able to put a foot wrong, taking that semi-final 15-5 against Canada.
Yeah, there are star players up and down the roster. One I think you should particularly be keeping an eye on is the number 24, Miri Matsuzaki, who's a student at Nippon Sports Science University, as are 7 of her teammates. Here's a little reel of her achievements in that semi-final against Canada. Normally you see her distributing, she's got a live arm, but she's got a nose for the end zone as well when required.
It's a name you'll hear time and time again on this stream. A pivotal player on all sides of the disc for Japan.
For the United States, we're taking a look at Caroline Turnquist, again, who's been contributing really as a finisher in the red zone for the United States. She's going to eat up a lot of yardage underneath, but when you get into those final few yards, you'll keep an eye on how often Turnquist is the option they go to. Both of these sides seemingly been on a collision course since the very start of the tournament. Undefeated so far, as you saw, 8 wins and 0 defeats for each of them. Japan were imperious in the pool phase, a plus 74 goal difference through their first 6 games, and you may argue that they had the easier pool, but still, that, I mean, just speaks to the quality they have. They have been relentless in their pursuit of gold.
Absolutely. Up to this game, Japan has only been broken twice on their O-line in this whole tournament. That was once against Italy in the pool stages, and then the first point of the second half in their tightly fought game against Australia in the quarterfinals. USA looking to disrupt that record.
Easier said than done, obviously, against a side with this sort of quality. USA then beginning on offense, and this women's final is underway. Here is Rachel Chang. trying to manipulate this Japanese defence with their throws. In that semi-final against Canada, they had a few different looks and they really cycled and rotated through them, constantly trying to keep the Canadians on the back foot. This is a red zone turnover. Japan going with a slightly slower start. Mayuya Takaya in to the end zone, an early break, scarcely a pass completed for the US before Rina Satsumi makes it 1-0.
Japanese defense doing its job to disrupt that handler movement. Japan coming down in a zone. We've seen them with a multitude of different defensive looks. They have a number of zones that they're able to put on with flawless execution, creating a block between the downflow cutters and the upfield handlers, in that case forcing a little bit of a turnover just from a lack of focus perhaps there from USA, giving a very short field and then comfortably popping that one in. Koizumi for the score.
I mean, you mentioned how imperious the Japanese O-line have been, giving up just 2 breaks the entire tournament. That was not a lie. Rachel is telling you the truth. It was in that pool game against Italy and that break early on in the semi-final, in the second half of the quarter-final, I should say, if I can get my words out, against Australia. Again, the US, on the other hand, has been broken at least once in 7 of their 8 games. So an ominous start, potentially, for the Americans. The O-line goes back out there. Japan looking to stay in a similar defense. We'll see how the Americans can deal with it at the second time of asking. Callahan winner, Abby Hecko. Dishing back to Rachel Chang. Fine through there to the gloved bird song. Chang going wide. Yu just trying to slowly work their way down the field. The offense is quite vertically compressed, but Hecko manipulates the mark with her fakes and is able to find that centering pass. Hecko now opening up a little bit more down the line to Dawn Colton. This seems a much more assured possession as Japan get the signal to transition into the one-on-one defense. Phillips to Chang. They survey their options. Punch it in low. Yu trying to just create a little more space over the far side of the field, leading that break throw out to Phillips. Stephanie Phillips comes back short to Yu. This is tough red zone coverage. They're really trying to force those break throws to go up. That throw to Gaskill is not going to stick because there is a pick call in the end zone. Both of those players were coming towards the break side at the same time, and that created the little rub there between the two defenders. Now Yu trying to find the break side space. Colton not quite in the red zone, in the end zone I should say, just yet, and the blade around to Phillips. That was a very mature possession for the United States as Steph Phillips makes it one apiece.
Japan coming back out in one of their zone looks that point. We've seen that a number of times through this tournament. It's been so effective, but USA managing just to hold themselves together. Of course, this USA-Japan matchup, it's one for the ages. We see here 2015, Japan taking the title.
And that's the only time that the USA have been beaten in attending one of these events. They rollicked home to victory out in Perth, Western Australia 5 years ago. It scarcely seems so long. And then the last edition of this tournament in Heidelberg, 15-9, the USA were winners over Japan. There you see kind of how it has shaken out over the years. This has been the matchup in the final in 3 of the last 4 editions of this tournament.
Japan versus USA, 2 titans of the game. very different playing styles. Both coaches before the game talking about being aware of how the other play, knowing what to expect, but certainly coming into this final hoping to focus on their own team and how they can pull themselves together and execute their own plan without too much regard for the opponent.
Yeah, obviously it's a high pressure scenario, but that's why you come to these events. You've got to enjoy that pressure. That one's a floater, and it is nabbed away by Caroline Turnquist. But the receiver there, Aya Hinago, seems to think that Turnquist came through her. And they're going to ask for a little bit of aid in translation. Suzuno Uesada is going to help out there on the Japanese side.
Okay, I think I was like over straight up and got the disc. Do you have a perspective?
There's definitely a lot of contact
As
there.
you were coming from behind, I had no clear perspective if you had a clear play on the disc. So, contested foul.
A contested foul is to be the result. I certainly see the point of view of both sides there, because I think Turnquist does have the disc before, but there is obviously a lot of contact, either as or just after the block is made.
And of course, this is WFDF rules, so contact before, during or after can constitute a foul. It's not enough to get to the disc first, but that one resolved as a contested foul.
Yeah, making a play on the disc is not a valid excuse to initiate contact, says the rules. Break down the line, wanted to try and melt that in. I think that was hopped out.
I think foul. Okay, turnover stance.
I think that was how I saw it as well, that she couldn't quite keep those feet down before she was able to secure possession of the disc. So a break chance here for the United States, and Phillips throws it right into the poach. That is superb awareness from the 88, Mayuka Takada. And now Takada towards the end zone. Hinago is going to punch that one in, looking for Asuka Katagiri, the joint stats leader on the Japanese side, makes it 2-1.
Phillips ends up points with hands on head. So challenging to get the turn. You've really got to make the most of it in this game. Both these sides are going to be furious in seeking to deny any breaks. Japan with that excellent intercept.
And that is part of the reason why it is so difficult to break this Japanese side, because their offense has not been perfect, despite what the stats might tell you. They have turned it over, but they are so switched on after that that they are exceptional at getting the disc back. Here is that flow. Just the advantage, of course, with the interception rather than a slow turnover is that the US defense is kind of never really in position.
Yeah, and the Japanese are not afraid to take it and run with it. That fast movement secured by such fundamental skills on the disc, able to catch and release so quickly and with so much certainty. It's fast, but it's not rushed. That's often what we've said about this Japanese side. They can play with so much speed, but they're always in control of how they're doing it, and they make sure that they execute it flawlessly.
More speed, less haste. You might hear it called. So 2-1 Japan with that break on the first point to hold the advantage here over the United States. Katagiri will pull. You will see that a number of key Japanese players, they are more than happy to play on offense and defense. A front three this time, an arrowhead trying to shut down deep options. Chang swinging around. They're giving them those wide options, and the Americans seeming happy to take them, just slowly penduluming their way down the pitch. It's been windy and gusty and blustery here this week, but not so much today as Heko shoots deep, and oh, they maybe got away with that one there. Katagiri was in position, but I think she went for it too early, and that created the window for Dawn Colton to level things up. I mean, on the one hand, good on them for taking it on, but I feel like that maybe shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, looking at that from our perspective in the booth, I was surprised to see that one go up. Japan was well positioned to cover that, and Katagiri trying to attack it early, of course, knowing that you need to do that against teams like USA, trying not to just end up leaping into the air at the same time and battling it out there, but slightly misreading it was what enabled that to come off. As we see, so well positioned, Katagiri and number 57, Oki Kayo.
Yeah, the idea from this throw from Heko is putting the edge and a bit of loft on it is definitely going to take it over Oki, and ideally over Katagiri as well, but Katagiri would have been able to get there, but I think oversold her ability a little bit, which feels harsh, but just didn't quite get that at the apex as she wanted.
Yeah, perhaps just a bit of a misread, but that throw really demonstrating something that was mentioned by the USA coaches ahead of this game. There is so much trust and cohesion in this USA side, despite the fact that they've had limited opportunity to train as a unit coming into this tournament, but the buy-in across all sides has just been phenomenal.
Into the gut there of Takada. Trying to shut down those inside throws, but eventually they'll find a way through. Matsuzaki opens up the blade, catches the US unsighted, and that is a filthy break towards the far side. The rangy Hikari Hashizume, who so often is a field stretcher for them, provides it again. But what a throw that is.
It's something Japan have demonstrated time and time again across this tournament. They play the small ball, they play those inside breaks. There's something that every team they come up against have to be very concerned about, that quick movement, those inside IO, low release breaks that can really carve apart a defense. But they also have the vision and the skills to play really sort of sweeping offense that can maximize the whole field. And we see there such creative work to find the space.
Well, I think it's because teams know how threatening that inside shot can be. It's so easy to overcommit, flatten out too much, and allow those wider options. But this one is just, I think you can see as well, it's unfortunate for Emily Kemp because she loses her footing. Of course, the turf a little bit sodden with a torrential downpour. We had about 15 minutes before first pull. Shot of the US coaches on the far sideline. We were delighted to be able to speak to Nancy Sun pre-game and get some insight on what they're looking for. And again, she talked about how obviously they've grown together as a team and they'll remember the moments on field, but not as much as they remember the moments off it. Ball's going to land out of bounds, and I think Steph Phillips decides, maybe a little bit belatedly, that they are going to brick it. Again, continuing to cycle through defences. This time, Japan come down in match, and Phillips taking on the break early, has to lay out to come towards it, but Dodge does so brilliantly. Now the Olympian Gaskill into the lane, and it's blocked straight to Rachel Chang. Couldn't have drawn it up any better if they tried. Now, they look to shuttle through the handlers in the red zone. And Heko with that little dish through to Teresa Yu makes it 3 apiece. But maybe, again, USA are having Lady Luck smiling down upon them.
Certainly, luck or just sort of recognizing that they're going to need to be heads up every single second their feet are on this field. Japan with a smart offense there by switching up, not coming out in the zone. Initially it looked like it might be a sort of wall at the front, but perhaps it was person. It's sort of not totally clear. But then as soon as the USA start moving, you see them definitely in person defense, but with a really smart poach in the lane, which is who gets this block. But really heads up work from Rachel Chang. I mean, they didn't see that coming in, but safe reception.
I mean, they did brilliantly just to kind of be aware that that disc was still going to be alive. USA taking a timeout here, down a break, of course, from that first point. The two sides have traded since then. Three apiece here early in the first half of the women's final of the WFDF World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. And this is what the Americans cooked up during the break. The zone, which gets the turn, trying to pop that one over the top. Steph Phillips got a hand and now picks up on the turn. Turnquist. Has the reset of Phillips available. Out wide, here's Kira Flores. Back into the clutches of Steph Phillips. Looking, trying to be aggressive. Find a yard gaining option downfield. Thought that might have been tipped, but Colton finds Phillips. We've seen this line play a lot on offense, but coming over to play defense. And the switch nearly worked masterfully, but spannered out of the grasp of Turnquist. Now, an absolute howitzer of a throw with the outside-in edge on it, but that hung up in the end zone, and Dawn Colton showed why she has been taking names this week, Rachel.
That was a forehand bomb. Probably at least sort of three-quarters, two-thirds of the field, all the way down there. Excellent sit, but as you mentioned, Dawn Colton getting into position and using her stature to make sure that that one is a turnover.
First pass, swung into the backfield to Waybright. Now Phillips down the line for Colton. Having got the block, what can she do on the turn? So often we see those Japanese hucks are a bit flatter and zippier, as this one sat over the top. Waybright into Flores' clutches, and now they get it back. Struggling to create separation downfield at the moment. Birdsong gets the right side of Hashizume. A slower paced possession here, really trying to treasure the disc. This American D-line, all risky throw into the center of the field. That is a bad bid.
A lot of contact, a lot of contact on that one.
It was a risky throw, trying to scythe across the field there. Turnquist got into position and was cleaned out by Matsuzaki.
Matsuzaki perhaps reading that a little bit too late. Turnquist not able to see her coming in.
I understand that it's a final and, you know, sometimes you zero in and you want to get the block, but you need to make sure that you've got that field awareness to prevent collisions like that.
Is that going to be, is it accepted, is it contested? Yes, it's a foul, but is it accepted or is it contested? Yes, but, okay, it's going to be accepted, right? Okay, thank you. So you will pick up the disc on stalling one, right? Thank you.
Good to see that Turnquist is okay to continue. Dmitry Doroshenko is the game advisor from the far side, and we've got Merit Trap on this near side. Colton, slashing cut from behind. Phillips pins it onto Downey. They got all the way down the field before. Turnquist couldn't snag it, and that time shooting for Waybright, just too zippy, too far out in front, and they never got in the position to bid.
USA looked to be setting up that zone that was so effective in the previous possession, generating a block early on in this point that's really started to be a bit of a grinder.
That front line is in very tight for the Americans, but Morioka is there, I think, deliberately to try and draw them in, because that creates space elsewhere. Looking to split Colton as the deep defender. That's a rushed throw, and it goes to turf again. Third turnover on this point. Now Phillips trying to put a bit of air underneath it, and that is why, because Birdsong takes flight and gets the break back for the States. It's 4-3.
Hinago perfectly in position. It was a quick turnover. USA really getting it going quickly, trying to exploit the confusion from the Japanese side. Hinago was tight on their player, but unfortunately that lofty pass, just not able to get a play on it. We see here the rushed pass gifted back to the USA and well received by number 33, Erica Birdsong. And that is a break back for the USA.
Yeah, well, I think you can see why she's jazzed, because obviously big final in Birdsong, you know, it's still, I think, I mean, she's represented the US before, but you can't exactly call her a veteran given that she's just 19, so she's still got 2 cycles of under-24 left. And was very impressed with her performance out in the under-20 division at the JJUC Joint Juniors Ultimate Championships last year, which comprised the European youth of under-17s and World Juniors of under-20s, where the USA picked up gold in the open and women's divisions over France in both finals. Seeing the tournament stats for Erica Birdsong there.
Birdsong, of course, one of the UNC Pleiades players on this US side. There are a number of them. So no stranger to championship games, having been part of the squad that took the Division I college championships the last 3 years in a row.
That's a decent record. Faking the inside. More match defense this time from America. Matsuzaki ripping it deep, looking for Hashizumi. So often they want to, but when you go down the sidelines, the margin for error is so tight. Receiver had to stay in bounds, but Hannah Huddleston had no such qualms and gets in there to slap it out of the sideline. Claire Schmidt will look to marshal the offense after the turn. That one's going to float a little bit, not a problem though for Williamson. Down the line to Hecko. Getting it off the line, trying to put at least a bit of inside-out shape on it. It's going to hang on the edge. I thought it was going to take it back into dodge. The receiver took a bit of a the defender, I should say, took a bit of a hefty landing there, Asuka Kadagiri, and Lane Dodge is going to call a foul here as well.
You like the translator? Yes.
I thought it looked pretty clean, but you can never quite feel the level of contact there might be there.
I don't think that they touched my hand, but I think I had control. Like, I think I had the disc, and it got ripped out of my hand.
手を触ってはないとは賛成ですけど、そのディスクもキャッチしてて、そこからディスクがもうキャッチした状態で。
If you want, it's been 60 seconds. If you want, I can offer you my perspective. I've seen it quite well. Yeah. In my perspective, the US player did not have the sustained control of the disc. Are you going to, what's going to be the agreement?
I'll
Okay, so retract it.
So asked to give the perspective there. The game advisors are not making binding judgments. The players on the field are still coming to the resolution, and I think I agree with the perspective there. I think she might have had it, but did she demonstrate sustained control? I don't think so.
I'm not sure it's possible in such a quick play to have sustained control, but excellent defensive effort.
This is what we talked about. There have been offensive miscues for Japan, but usually they're so certain in getting it back. Thought that deep shot was going to go from Matsuzaki, but she didn't quite like the timing of it. Putting a bit of air underneath it, around the defender to Takada. Takada here to Hashizume. Hashizume, oh, the low foot block was tipped into the hands of Takada. The second time we've had a block go straight into a receiver's path. They're really keying in on those inside throws. They nearly got away with it. But Japan, fortune favoured them on that occasion. Now trying to put that out into space for the layout. I think that one was down.
Shaking head, says they disagree. Matsuzaki thinks that was a play to save that possession.
You can go to them together.
That's down for me.
That's very close.
Yeah, do you have a, yeah, can I look?
Both of you, do you want to look?
We have a photographer on the far end zone who's potentially caught that moment.
It does seem like it's down to me.
Milliseconds.
Nathan Kalakovic, who is seemingly ubiquitous at these sides of tournaments. I've seen him have photos from all sorts of angles of the same play in a way that I kind of can't quite make sense of. Let's do it in super slow motion. She's definitely not got control of that before it's hit the floor for me.
Disc is down.
Agreed, and that is confirmed by the photographer.
Check the disc in before you move.
Turnquist was looking at a little replay monitor on the sideline of it as well.
Phenomenal effort, either way.
But both sides with miscues, especially in the red zone.
Speaks to the intensity of this game. Everyone having to put it all on the field.
Dodge dishes back to Earhart, and now Williamson going wide towards the far sideline where Elsa Winslow dishes it back to Williamson. Couple of defenders there, both of them peel off. It frees up space for the throw downfield to Huddleston. And just a maybe little fingertip in there from Mitsuki Sunazumi. Claire Schmidt couldn't handle it. Now they look to get the sideline trap set. Stall count rising, looking deep. Hashizumi pinpoints it, collects just outside the end zone. Knew what the high stall option was going to be, and Matsuzaki punches it in, this time Kahooki with the score. It is 4s, but this game is swinging back and forth here, Rachel.
Absolutely, Japan stacking incredibly deep off of that turn. They've had limited success so far with their deep shots. USA having so much speed in straight lines. We know Japan are fast in those kind of jinking turns in the middle of the field, but in a straight line, they are very, very speedy. Japan have felt the force of that on these long defenses, but with plays like that, they're staying in this game. Phenomenal work from Takada.
I mean, phenomenal foot block. Turnquist, I think, was in no doubt about the decision of that up-down call, having seen the replay, but they kept finding a way to get it done and get it back as the heavens open here with another timeout on the field, and taken this time by Japan, I imagine, trying to, again, reach into that defensive playbook and see if they can find something that can keep the US off rhythm and off platform.
We have to remember that that was an offensive hold for Japan, and they had to work so hard to get it.
Two of the best photographers in the game there, Nathan Kalakovic and Kevin Leclerc of Volti Photos. Kind of, I think, comparing snaps maybe of those up-down calls. Four apiece here, both sides having taken a timeout midway through this first half.
The brave sideline spectators all wrapped up, umbrellas, raincoats on. The rain is coming in fits and starts. Thankfully not too windy, which has always been, is another big adjustment for both these teams. It's been the story of this week, this incredible gusts and windy weather. Today we're thankfully not suffering from that too much, but it is, of course, with rain coming down, quite a wet field. We've seen a number of players slipping over when they try and make some tight turns and some sharp cuts, which might kind of continue to feed into, challenge both sides.
Yeah, maybe in the wet weather could do with some of that wet weather footwear. As Chang catches the pull. A lot of players will pack multiple pairs of cleats for events like these, depending on the conditions. Colton. Birdsong. Handler turns away as she makes that cut. Now wants to squeeze it down the line to a bidding Gaskill who keeps it alive. The leading pass for Phillips in that power position, not seeing a cut that she likes, trying to square up, takes a little bit of contact on the mark, retracts any call as the throw is completed. Now back to Phillips.
Smart defensive switches from Japan, trying to contain the handler movement.
A couple of them sitting on that open side. Heko on the doorstep. Oh, I thought she was going to go to the hammer, but not risking any further miscues into the end zone. For the American score, Heko in her element out there.
Gaskill so free after that first big fake from Heko, calling for it in the end zone. Heko, of course, looking to maybe try and pull something a bit more exciting off, and ultimately just finding her dump and then moving back into that space. Well received and put into the end zone, jumped to ensure that she has her feet safely in bounds.
The defenders there just poked into that open side. It was good recognition there by Phillips and really executed on the inside throw. And there, just again, as you talked about, players are struggling a little bit for grip out there as the Callahan winner Heko grabs for the goal.
Japan putting out their person-to-person defense, but as I mentioned in that point, we're seeing some really good smooth switching around as they sort of have one person on the force, and if the cut from the other dump handler goes to move around into the right position, that rather than trying to chase after them, the Japanese defenders doing a great job of kind of sliding off so that the stall count might reset, but the other handler goes back onto the other defensive mark goes onto the other handler, and sort of switching between them really seamlessly, keeping a lot of pressure on the USA handler set.
Zone coming back out here from the USA, and it makes sense because last time they tried this defensive strategy, it did get them their only break, which was only the third time Japan's O-line have been broken all tournament. 4 clean holds for the USA, just 1 for Japan, but the difference is that Japan have been able to get the disc back. When the USA O-line did surrender it, they were broken. Flores. No mark for a while there, but no one's able to uncover themselves until the swinging pass to Colton. Trout Waybright probably at home in these wet conditions. Phillips gonna cut out the middle receiver there as Birdsong continues all the way towards that far sideline. Trying to flash in and get the poach there. Waybright just about catch secured there. Flores. Birdsong being marked by Nasu. Now continuing around, a stupendous layout, that one from Dawn Colton. And again, just waiting for the player to get there. Colton got clipped on the ankles at the end of the catch as well, and I don't think she was happy about it.
Colton certainly fired up, getting that enormous layout save. Under pressure from the Japanese defense, making a bit of a sort of a stutter cut in the end zone and immediately getting it back. As you say, a little bit of contact from the Japanese defender. Colton unhappy about it, but happy to have got the score. So I guess all in all, certainly a positive point for Colton.
Yeah, Morioka just lost her footing as she was catching that. And then this was a clean break for the States. And that is what you're going to need to do against this side. And Hashizume gets there late, and Colton walks away, having powered the US to another break. Japan been broken as many times in this game as they had all tournament coming into it. And in an unfamiliar scenario here, down 6-4, they've kind of scarcely been like this early in the second half in that quarterfinal against Australia. The only times really they were a breakdown of tournaments.
This is a game for 15. Half time and 10.
So US coaches clearing the field. That's Waybright pulls.
USA were signalled offside by the game advisor, but Japan maybe not seeing or just choosing to play on.
Yeah, maybe preferring just to try and keep things going quickly rather than give the US a chance to get a bit more set up. Good body position retained there by Asuka Katagiri. Wanted to try and fit that one in down the line. Did not think there was a window there, and Teresa Yu agreed. "16-year-old Chloe Hakimi brings it in. Not that you'd know from the way she plays. Laura Toe. Bit of a riser there, but Colton has no fear in catching it and no fear in bombing it as well. And brilliant defensive pressure gets it back from Kasumi Nasu. You understand, wanting to try and take advantage of those height mismatches deep. But Japan are no slouches in the skies.
Absolutely not. Nasu reading that perfectly, timing her jump, putting just enough pressure on to get that one away before any kind of control could be on. It looked as though, yeah, sort of a hand goes out, ready to catch Ezra Waybright, but Nasu putting enough in to get the turnover.
So the two number 5s matched up against each other. Hinago going out here to the captain Takada. Played last year at the World Games for Team Japan. All the way over to the far side of the field. Sunizumi trying to squeeze it back in. Was that in bounds? Couldn't get a good shot of it from up here. Mayuka Takada is the player who tried to scoop it with the trailing legs while dragging those feet.
Where is he? There we go. Okay. No stall. No stall, right? No stall.
Players seem happy that it was in. I'm not sure she was able to keep that back foot down by the time she caught it. But the players seem happy enough, and Hakimi gets in the way to get the block. Now with the quick pickup, Hakimi centres to Yu. Yu guns it again, a bit of float on this one in the battle of the two number 5s. Tipped away stupendously, superbly by Aya Hinago.
Japan doing an amazing job in that end zone. USA certainly thinking that they can exploit some potential height mismatches, but as you say, they're no slouch in the air and able to time their attack on that disc flawlessly. Two big shots defended by Japan in the last few moments of this game.
A little bit of milk there from Asuka Morioka. Push pass off to Tsunezume. Tsunezume trying to squeeze that one in down the line, and she bids, does Mayuka Takada, and she makes the catch stick. The captain makes it 5-6.
So much pressure being exerted by these US marks. Japan usually able to find those jinking resets with relative ease, but not today. Tight person match marking has been so disruptive, but as we see there, Japan still able to play in those tight windows. That disc was put into the end zone with the smallest window, hardly any space on that far sideline. See again that push pass, and that one goes right down the line, brilliantly arcing under so much pressure.
You see it again there on the replay. It's high, but Takada is fully committed.
Teresa Yu in good position for that, defending that sort of cut, but that throw just sitting out into that space, sweeping around her with the perfect shape, the perfect weight, the perfect speed.
6-5 United States up the one break. Japan breaking to start this game, and the USA got one back to level things up, and then have got one in their favour. Stephanie Phillips fields the ball confidently, as Japan again continue to shuttle through their various defensive looks. Something that was so successful against the Canadians, never letting them get comfortable playing against one style by continually posing different questions for them. As that one, a really ambitious shot. Can Heko find Gaskill? Of course she can. That one, they do get the deep shot nailed on, and she catches over Matsuzaki to make it 7-5.
Gaskill using her boxing out abilities and her height advantage to hold space. We've seen a number of excellent Japanese defensive efforts, seeing down some of those high arcing discs in the end zone, despite the relative potential mismatch between the players in terms of height. No problem for Gaskill though, well held of the space. We can see here Heko puts that arcing backhand out, and Gaskill just gets her body in front. Make sure the disc is coming round on the far side, the Japanese defender on her back shoulder.
You will see the eagle-eyed of you, that Olympic tattoo just on Stacey Gaskill's right arm, of course represented in the snowboard cross at the Winter Olympics. And if you've never seen snowboard cross, it's utterly bonkers and it's so much fun to watch. I wonder what it's like being able to represent your country in two different sports. I mean, to be fair, I wonder what it's like to be able to represent your country in one, but I think that's by the by. Chloe Hakimi will pull. Coming from Seattle, of course, she'll be no stranger to the reins. There's the inside shot, has to come back towards it. Just trying to push Emma Williamson back a bit on the mark with the pump fake deep. Beautiful throw leading to space, and now trying to sit that one out there. But again, down the sideline, there's no room to work with. And a beautiful flying block from Caroline Turnquist.
I thought that was going to be another point for Japan. I thought that was another brilliantly executed offensive play under pressure from the USA, but the pressure mounted. Turnquist with such a phenomenal defensive play.
That one a floater down the sideline and out of the sideline, just behind that greatest banner.
USA certainly seem to have had a sort of offensive strategy shift of let's gun it deep for a bit and see what happens. That one maybe being a little bit too keen to try and secure a break for half. Flies out of the field. The windows were always tight on that throw, and trying to get almost a full field huck right down the sideline and keeping it in. Something I'm sure a lot of these players can do, but in these high stakes situations with so much Japanese defensive pressure, perhaps asking a little bit too much there.
Yeah, neither side has been reticent for those tight window sideline hucks, and I wonder if the game goes on either side, we'll begin to shelve those. Of course, games at World Championships, and especially in finals, are going to be games of fine margins, as that one is gunned deep. A couple of receivers there, and all it needed was a bit of communication, but Kasumi Nasu couldn't get there and prevented Asuka Katagiri from doing so either.
Heartbreak, double coverage on the offensive play.
Again, looking for a quick pickup. Hakimi gunning it, and gunning it right in stride to Turnquist. Dumping off Cleo Phillips. Hakimi, 5 yards out of the end zone. Can she get it down the line past the bidding Matsuzaki? Squeezes into narrow window to Cleo Phillips, and USA will take half 8-5.
Such a dominant response to that Japanese offense. They wanted to get the break, they wanted to take half, and USA rifling that one down into the middle of the field, learning the mistakes they made in just a possession before, weighting that one perfectly, sitting it more into the middle of the field, more margin for error, but well received by Turnquist, and then moving it quickly from there, never really letting Japan set properly up on defense.
I mean, you saw it there in the graphic. This 3-point deficit is the largest that Japan have faced all tournament. So an unfamiliar scenario then for Japan, who are getting a very loud support from some of their compatriots. And I think probably they'll be getting a lot of neutral support as well. There was the turn that gave the disc back to the Americans. And then they were ruthless with it at this point, working the full length of the central zone before Hakimi is able to just about roll it past the bidding Matsuzaki to Cleo Phillips. 8-5 then, the current score. USA leading Japan at half-time in this women's semi-final.
For the first time ever, from the golden sandy blankets of Portimao, Portugal, ULA and Ulti TV bring you the World Beach Ultimate Club Championship 2024. The best club teams in the world will converge on the Portuguese Algarve. With expectations for upwards of 150 teams, this promises to be a tournament worth bucket listing, whether on the sands or watching the action from your screen. WBUCC 2024 is a tournament not to be missed.
I will arise and go soon to the Isle of Emerald Green and watch my mighty heroes go to battle on the screen. Where the ocean kisses Ireland, Shannon's tears of joy flow. That lovely Lady Limerick invites us to the show. From mighty glens and rugged hills, bays and braes raise a sláinte. Ganairi an bóthar leat, agus céad míle fáilte.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you've got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
Japan have one break in the opening points of the game. The score is 8-5.
World Under-24 Ultimate Championships here at the University of Nottingham, the WFDF and Ulti World, and 8-5 USA leading Japan at half in this match-up between the two powerhouses. There is the story of the game. Just the one break chance for Japan on the first points. They punched it in. But USA have just generated so much pressure. 11 break chances and just the one clean hole for Japan.
We've certainly been talking about the sort of prowess of the Japanese offensive line and how they've managed to come into this game with having only suffered 2 breaks against them. USA certainly changing those stats around, working so hard to get terms and get themselves the advantage as we go into half.
8-5 then. It's going to be a tough road back for Japan in a situation they have not been in this tournament, and this broadcast is brought to you in association with our friends at XCOM Footwear, rolling out hiking shoes, training footwear and cleats, all custom designed for ultimate players in 2023. And given how treacherous the ground has been at times here, because we have seen a few players lose their footing, could be a prudent investment.
Yeah, the changing weather conditions have kept these players on their toes all week. This game, no exception. We've had a bit of wind, not too much wind, which is a bit of a change from the norm, but the rain has been coming in fits and starts.
He's been one of the key players for the US in that first half. Callahan winner Abby Hecko, the University of Washington standout. She's done it with her throws and receiving as well. A dynamic force that Japan have found difficult to shut down. We are delighted to be joined by the Japanese coaches at half-time. Arigato, thank you for joining us. You've not been 3 points down all tournament. What is the message to your players at half-time?
まだ大丈夫な点差なので、ここから自分たちを信じて巻き上げていこうと言いたいです。
She's saying it's 3 points, it's not a big deal. We still have a lot of time to go. Just trust yourselves, and she just wants to say that, oh, the players got this game. They're still in this.
So far, early in the game, the first point, we saw the Japanese defense immediately generating a turn. What are you going to bring against the US to try and get some turns and some breaks back against them in the second half?
1セット目ですぐにターンオーバーを起こしたと思うんですけど、後半どういった戦術を使ってターンオーバーっていうのを起こしていきますか？
ゾーンを使って相手のリズムを崩してターンオーバーを狙っていきたいと思います。
Well, we really think that zone defenses are very effective right now, so just want to kind of mess up their tempo and the way of their offense by using zone defense. Yeah.
We'll let you get back to the game. Thank you for joining us. Arigato. The second half is underway here, and Matsuzaki claps her hands to signal that she is ready to receive the ball. Japan down 8-5 in an unfamiliar scenario for them this week. How can they respond? They are beginning the second half on offense there, as the cruel turf monster pinches and grabs Aya Hinago, and she slips and provides the US with another break chance. And Hakimi is emphatically hand-blocked to give it back by Sunizumi. The captain Takada, I think, maybe just got ahead of herself a little bit there. Swing toss to Matsuzaki. Another pick. There has been a, it's not just that the fields are a bit wet, but when the rain has come, it's come heavily, and it has provided some treacherous conditions underfoot. There you're going to see another angle of that beautiful hand block from Mitsuke Sunizumi. Hart checks in as Matsuzaki goes underneath to Morioka. Matsuzaki being face marked, I think signals that she just wants this to go. That is the advantage as a player when you are being face marked, is if you can just get the disc out into space, the defender has to react off you, and Beautiful inside throw, but got a little greedy, accused of avarice, and it means that Gigi Gianni can get the block.
Gigi Downing seeming out of position, but they quickly read the play and were able to make that defensive effort despite being quite far from their mark.
High release there from Waybright, second possession on the opening point of this second half for the USA. Colson, is she going to take that down the line option? Stall count rising, ticking up, and there is going to be a stall called. Felt like she had it a while. Was it a full 10 seconds? I don't know.
Seeing many reset options, lots of blue shirts looking away downfield.
I have 2 points. One, I think that I threw it before you said 10. And two, when you said 8, I called contact and then threw it immediately after, and you then dropped the stall to 0. So it really should have been like stall 1 when I threw it.
1点目は10言う前に投げたと。で、2点目はyou said stall 8 or something.
When it was like stall 8 or 9, I said contact as I was about to throw it because they touched me.
だけどコンタクトピンタはストーリー1にまた戻るはずなのになかったからバイオレーション。コンタクトって言われたのがわからない。Oh, they didn't hear the contact call.
I said it. I'm sorry if I thought I said it loud enough. Maybe it's
もっとなんか聞こえるように言ったと思ったのに。
It's been quite a while. Can we come to an agreement? Could you ask both players?
Like I got it off before 10, I think, and I also called contact, so I really think that it should be a completion.
Okay, 自分は10の言う前に投げたと思うし、コンタクトと言ったから、コンプリーション、なんかそのままパスになったはずだと思うと言ってました。
So, is it going to be completion over there?
This stays with the USA.
No contact.
Okay.
So
call is retracted.
The call is retracted. The centering pass is completed to you. Alyssa Earhart coming up to aid with translation there. We are checked back in as the sun begins to burst through the clouds here in the East Midlands. It is still a warm, muggy day, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's more wind. Hakimi slipped, but even if she had not, it was a brilliant interception from Takada. And now Earhart pinches that one from out of the grasp of Matsuzaki, and the strip call is quickly accepted. Trying to motion players further downfield, wants to stretch it so the deep option is available, even if they don't hit it, because that will help clear space for teammates. Katigiri. Trying to roll the blade all the way across. This time down, he can't quite get the inside track on it. And Oscar Morioka makes it 8-6. Again, Japan getting holds, but they are not doing it cleanly.
I thought certainly was about to get that D. They've been so strong in the end zone. Sort of the disc awareness, field awareness has been creating so many problems for Japan to try and get that score. Not this time, however. Japan showing they're still able to stretch it. They've had a couple misfortunes with longer looks, but so close. Downey really well positioned.
I'm reminded, somewhat ironically, of the shot from Heko on this near sideline in the first half, where Katagiri slightly misread it and got underneath it, and I think this time she gets lucky because maybe Downey misreads it and gets too far underneath it as well. 8-6 then, after the first point of this second half. We mentioned how they were, you know, looking to vary things up defensively, and at halftime in the interview the coaches said that they feel like the zone is effective at disrupting the tempo of the United States. So I think we expect to see that here.
That, of course, was an offensive hold for Japan. USA still putting them through their paces, making them work so hard to generate those holds. Japan really needing to get a break or two back if they want to stay in this game and seek to get themselves in the lead.
Flores catches the ball and the first pass goes to Chang, and as expected, it is going to be some zone from Japan. Pump faking the backhand. Chang close to the end zone, so demonstrative with those fakes, such snap in the wrist. Flores, they look to pin them on that far sideline, clogging the lanes downfield. Able to thread that one through there. Flores. Just going back to Chang at the moment. The US offense going nowhere, but they're keeping possession. I think the fake just slapped Sagumi Kita in the face.
Both players laughing.
It's good that they're able to see the the funny side of things, even in a game as intense as this, and that is what both coaches talked about, to be fair, before the game, is enjoy the moment. Gaskill slips downfield as Heko scubas over the top, of course, much chiller than we have been so far this week. None of the sneaky breeze, as Gigi Morrison coined earlier. Chang with the little pop there. And that one undersold the blade to Gaskill. Sunezume able to intercept. That'll be her third block. Nanako Koizumi really looking to get low, to get around the force of Chang. And that deep shot holstered. Phillips couldn't quite get round the matchup, and there's not a window there. Punched, I think that was on the line. Certainly that's what the US seems to agree as Japan begin to rush the field.
Let's have a discussion here.
Oh, yes.
Do we need a translator?
Couldn't quite see on that angle.
In the initial play, it did look like that foot was on the line.
She wants to know the game.
Oh, yeah. Okay. From my perspective, your foot landed on the line when you had control, and then you land out, and the line is part of out. So if your first ground contact is the line that's out of bounds. Yeah. We're good. We're good. Thank you. Okay.
Merritt Trapp, the game advisor, on the near side, giving their perspective, and the players agree, and it is landed on the line. You can see that Sunezume was trying to get that back foot tapped down, but it was the right foot that landed first on the line, which of course is not considered part of the field. And the turnover there, I think the correct resolution.
And back in the zone, which did so well to contain the US in the early part of this point and ultimately generate a turn.
It's maybe not as aggressive as some of the other zones we've seen, like the Singapore zone, but it really does just bog down an offense. Of course, the fact that it is calmer, nowhere near the gusts that we've seen, make playing the zone defensively maybe a slightly dicier proposition. But Japan seem to have faith, and it is really forcing the Americans backwards. There's a risky shot, maybe across. Cleo Phillips does brilliantly to retain her focus. And that one, what a backhand that is. And Heko is money all day. 960 USA. They forced backwards, and they found that, look, rather than just stay here, let's be aggressive. Let's hit those spaces that Japan are baiting us to hit, and we will nail it.
Heartbreak for the Japanese defensive line, doing such phenomenal work, containing the USA, really forcing them backwards right onto their end zone line. But as you mentioned, given that it's less windy, some of these higher overhead discs can come off with less trouble than we've seen earlier in the week. And Phillips launching that one into the end zone. Heko reading that well, seems to sort of lead the defender under somewhat and then create space for herself to run onto it, perhaps sort of forcing them to take that under position where they'd have to try and attack it really early. Wasn't going to be possible. Heko with a comfortable score. But to take another look at that Japanese zone defense, if we pause here, we will see quite clearly the front players. We have this wall up front working really hard, and then a sort of a line behind with this deeper one. As the disc swings, we're sort of expecting these deep defenders to sort of be working in a bit of a triangle work, and if we continue the play, we'll see, okay, that one breaks through overhead. Japan set right back up again, but trying to force those overheads downfield ultimately generates the turn from good Japanese coverage.
Oh, there's a pick, but that'll be retracted as the throw was offline. Hakimi picks up. That's a rising swing, but not a problem there for Margot Donoghue. Back into the hands of Schmidt. She wants to be aggressive again. Over the defender. Just off the hands of Emily Kemp. Katagiri did just enough while not getting a touch herself.
Time and time again, these Japanese defenders, Katagiri a number of times herself, are being so effective at this end zone defense, going up really early and forcing errors from the USA receivers.
Starting the play by spreading it wider. A wicked low release as they pick downfield. It doesn't matter though, because it's going to be intercepted. Ball is retracted. Hakimi with it now. Right slap bang in the centre of the field is Teresa Yu. Margot Donoghue finds that tight reset in the backfield. Yu, oh, I think just the advancing pressure there from Takada, who got the inside line. Linda Schmidt couldn't get there. A couple of maybe phantom defenses there for Japan. A couple of players slipped. Everyone seems okay, which is the main thing. Players are definitely struggling to stay up down there.
All side smiles from Natsuzaki, sliding onto the ground and with a USA player with her, but jumping up with a grin on her face. Certainly enjoying this intense game.
So Nizumi to a rising Takada. Again, the snap in the fake as it's distributed into Sunezume, taking advantage of those face marks in the handler set to roll it out into space. Hinago threads the needle into the back of the end zone, where it is gratefully collected by Asuka Katagiri, her second goal, and it's 9-7. The United States continuing to force turns.
My heart was in my mouth when that throw went out. Dawn Colton in that space seemed from this angle to be well positioned for a block, but that one just launched through such a slicing pass, able to get there before Colton really could figure out what's going on, I think.
9-7, still very much in this game, Japan, but they need to find a way to break the US O-line, which they've only done once this game, in the game's very first point, and they've only turned it over once, have the US offense, since then. We talked about how tough it has been for Japan to get broken in this tournament, and it's not because the O-line's been perfect, but they play such good and smart defense after the turn as well. That was a wonderful jump of the lane, and so often I think teams trying to hit those mismatches deep, and you underestimate the Japanese at your peril, because they do put pressure on those deep shots. They don't let you have it easy despite any size disadvantage, and hey, they're not getting it done cleanly, and certainly I'm sure the coaches will say that we can improve, we can sharpen up, we can be more clinical, but they, more often than not, get it done. Steph Phillips. It's Japan forcing the US tight to this sideline. Get a little bit more room there with Birdsong. And now USA swinging it all the way to the far side of the field. Chang, a ball of energy with the disc in their grasp. Steph Phillips. Heko, things looking a little bit more rhythmic now for the US offense. Heko into the backfield. Defender I thought was going to bid, didn't, and then just lost her footing a little bit as Chang gets it back downfield. Gaskell looking to hit the shot towards the back of the end zone. Way bright. I think was ready to bid and then realised that they weren't going to get there. Japan forcing the turnover. How they would love a break. And tell you what, I'm glad Waybright's okay, because sometimes when you try and toe the line and you keep that back foot bounce, you can get yourself into an awkward position.
You see the cognizance of the line and the sort of the wherewithal to try and keep those toes in.
As a deep shot coming up, trying to test Gaskill, and that is a mistake because it hung up too long, and Gaskill slams it away. A high swing, Chang rises and collects. Now the visor, Chang into the backfield, Phillips. Heko shows that, you know, we're happy to try and stretch it deep. Gets it out to Gaskill on this near sideline. A couple of players go, looking for Birdsong. Can the defender get their position? Oh, they had position, and Birdsong would still refuse to be denied. 10-7 USA.
I'm not sure that Birdsong's feet were off the ground on that reception. Just holding space, moving with the defensive player, and ultimately kind of reaching up, using her height to secure that score.
Birdsong's had a couple of goals this game, but they have been so important, making decisive contributions. Here's the block from Gaskill. Just, I think, a little underthrow of the huck. That means the receiver has to slow down, and then Gaskill showing no fear, opening the arm up herself, and Birdsong snatching it away from over the defender, just unable to stop the wingspan of Birdsong. Ikumi Kishida was the covering defender.
The success that Japan has seen from those longer passes really seems to have come from when there was more sort of lateral movement, a little bit more to the pass than just a straight huck downfield. We've seen a number of those so far this game, and I think you're right, whether it's like a little bit of an underthrow and the receiver has to slow just a little bit, or it's just the case that the USA are very fast running in straight lines. Where Japan have seen real success is where they've kind of put more of an angle on it. It's been a bit of a cross field huck or a big arcing sweeping throw, giving Japan more sort of strategic advantage in how they choose to execute it. Just launching them straight downfield is always going to be under hot pressure from the USA, with their sort of maybe slightly taller frames, able to cover that little bit more ground, and able to turn that speed on in straight lines.
Turns have been the name of the game so far. That one tight towards the sideline. Foul is called there. Wamayuka Takada. Accepted foul. So it will be in from 0, probably slightly just beyond midfield here for Japan. A low layout required and received by Miri Matsuzaki. 2 assists already. Can she find a third? Underneath Takada. Now distributing out wide. Tsunezumi. Desperately trying to slow down the Japanese offense, and there is a bit of a tangle there on the end zone line.
Slippery floors, lots of players hitting the deck. Everyone jumping up though, perhaps a little bit of contact. So just a discussion if there's actually a foul.
There we go.
Slightly belatedly. Suzuno Uesada and Alyssa Earhart come over to help with some transmission.
Yeah.
They're probably. Oh, what were you?
I was gonna say, I think I was stationary and you turned into my legs.
Okay, so you're contesting the foul.
Yeah, I'm contesting.
13番がシート立ってて、ここから勝手に走って。ってことか。Is it like an offensive foul or just contesting? だからただファウルのコンテストをしてます。
All right, so we're happy with foul contested, right? Okay, okay. So it's going to be foul contested. What was the stall count? 6. Thank you.
So disc coming back in from 6. As Tom Stars announces to the arena, as that one popped up, and this time Japan coming up over the top to pluck it from the clutches of the defender, 10-8.
Tsunezumi getting up. That was almost a casual looking sky in the end zone, plucked out of the air and then casually tossed to the ground. So much defensive pressure and yet seeming totally unaffected.
We'll get a second look at it from the replay. Just tight on that sideline, running a little bit of give-go, just stealing a march, the first step quickness there from Japan, and they isolated that far space in the side of the end zone well. And Tsunezumi rises to bring it back in. 10-8, 3 turnovers so far this game for the US O-line, but they've turned it over on each of their last 2 offensive points. So we can see that the defensive pressure for Japan is beginning to pay more dividends. Can they find that degree of clinicity after the turn?
Yeah, once again, a big struggle to get that point down and in for Japan's hold. But we are seeing Japan getting turns on this USA O-line. Whether they're able to convert will make the difference.
First clean hold of the second half for Japan, and for either side of the second half, in fact, and only the second clean hold for Japan all game. That's through, and it's behind Phillips. Miscommunication. I thought that throw could have gone, but they want to be a bit more circumspect with it. Aggressive throw down the line there to Takada, and they find it so often. You look off a relatively open pass early in the stall count, and you find yourself forcing something less open later on.
Perhaps showing caution, but can't let themselves become tentative. They're going to have to be very assertive, come out firing to respond to this US.
And Heko sees a matchup that she likes there with Gaskill downfield and hits it. Chang. Now the Japanese defense can get back into position. Steph Phillips looking to touch over the top. Oh, the defender flashed across the vision there of Heko.
Doing just enough. It's a difficult job to put Heko off of her stride, but able to move across, either physically just sort of disorienting her for that moment, losing her sight on the disc. It's just enough.
Especially when the defender's wearing the same colour of that Discraft Ultra Star.
Maybe a strategic move from Japan in their uniform choice, who's to say?
Birdsong bids from the back shoulder but doesn't get there. Japanese D-line continuing to generate turns in this second half. Are they able to work it down the field? Sameya. Nasu points to space. Slightly jammy throw, but Takada back in the hands of Sameya. They've got the face mark, surprised they didn't hit it. Instead, short to Nasu. Taking a high release just past the flip block of Phillips. Getting those one-on-ones at the front of the stack. Rachel Chang has been picked. Unable to match up with their defender, trying to come through all that traffic in the centre of the park. Checked in. This time, it's Sagabe's turn to come short. And oh, Takada bid, but just agonisingly edged away from her. big pump fake. Back to Chang and redirects it straight back to Flores, who bobbles but retains. Heko wants it out wide, and they are going to receive it as well. Shows the downfield again, just trying to manipulate the Japanese defenders into those spaces, and Birdsong does superbly to stick that catch. Heko has a free Phillips. They've got poachers here. If they can just hit it through the free players, it should be a free score, and indeed it is. This time Flores to Heko, who catches her third goal of the game, 11-8. Japan must be frustrated that they are generating turns on a consistent basis now, but the D-line offense, with the exception of that red zone opportunity at the very start of the game, has been given the disc back.
Speaking to both coaches before this game, they talked about how obviously they came to this tournament gunning for this game. They're both teams recognizing that they had the potential to go all the way, but also mentioning that really what we're looking for here is these players to come and play under pressure, play these tight matchups. You know, we play because we love the sport, and how can you love it more than playing against a team like this? Each side working so hard to make those connections, and Japan, as they walk back to their line, having just squandered a couple of break opportunities that they're so sorely needed, we still see smiles across the team, across the line.
So 11-8, the United States leading in the second half of this women's final. In the women's final, USA leading Japan here at the WFDF World Under-24 Ultimate Championships from Nottingham in the heart of the East Midlands of the UK. This stream brought to you in partnership with our friends at Discraft, provider of the Ultrastar, the official disc of the World Flying Disc Federation, VC, makers of quality ultimate apparel since 1998, which is, if you needed reminding, longer than any of these players have been alive, and XCOM footwear, rolling out hiking shoes, training footwear and cleats, all custom designed for ultimate players in 2023. USA seem like they quite like the look of those zones, and they're going on to themselves. I don't think Hashizumi towed that in. She tried to, but I don't think she was able to. I think that's pretty clearly on the line to me.
Can we still have a
second touch?
Yeah.
Back in
Really
the
like
field. Maybe
well?
that's what she's sort of thinking about as calling it in, but that first one certainly looks to be on the line.
The only argument I think that could be made is that maybe that left foot hasn't quite left the ground by the time she catches it, but I think she thinks that it has, which is telling.
This foot was in as they caught it, and then the second contact was out.
From my perspective, you landed with the first foot on the line and then moved out. Yeah. When, from my perspective, the moment you had control was when your foot was on the line. We've been discussing it for a long time. Can we reach an agreement? We've been discussing for over a minute. Can we reach an agreement?
The video says it's out.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it.
The video is also just one perspective. Okay? No, you went. What is the video says it's out. From my perspective, we've been talking for a long time. Can we reach an agreement?
Shizumi very reluctant to let go
We've
of this
discussed
one.
it
She
very
thinks
long
she was
time.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to overrule, you make very good evidence which
Yeah.
you have not provided.
Yeah. If we want to talk about it longer, we can call this bit of the game stoppage. Okay.
Eventually, the turnover is accepted.
Shizumi certainly thinking about the sideline, trying to keep her toes in, but it did look on the replay like that first point of contact was on the line. USA back with the disc.
So Hasazumi had convinced herself that she was in, and sometimes, even in the face of all evidence, it can be difficult to drop that initial perspective. But certainly, from where we were standing, it looked out on first view, and it looked out on replay as well. Phillips to Waybright. USA with a break here would be 4 points up, requiring just 3 to win. Waybright to Phillips. Turnquist on the far side. Steph Phillips trying to thread the inside through, does find Colton. A foul call. Maybe a bit of a push-off from Colton, perhaps?
Gesturing to the feet, perhaps just a little bit of foot contact, perhaps being trod on, can really disrupt the run of the defensive player. That one goes back uncontested.
Penny for the thoughts of the US players on the sideline. How on earth has Colton got that? Rude, frankly. Phillips to Waybright. US trying to be tight in this possession, but that one was gunned by Waybright, and Colton caught anyway. Working it through the handlers, seeing if they can isolate Colton at the front of the end zone. A very tight mark there from Matsuzaki. I don't think Turnquist was impressed.
It did seem on the pivot that Turnquist might have also stepped into the mark. Of course, the mark needs to leave room for Turnquist to move around their pivot, but...
Sorry, I called contact,
Yes.
and they didn't drop back to 1.
Okay.
So
Do you contest the contact or not? Do we need help? I think we need help. I think we do need help.
I called contact and didn't drop to 1. That's fine. Contact.
It's the same as the foul, but does not stop play.
Didn't hear. Okay, sorry. I was louder next, but so 1.
If it is the contact and it is uncontested by you, then it should go back to 1. Sorry, accepted. Is it?
Looking at the replay, it does look a lot like Caroline Turnquist stepped into the mark. Of course,
So it's going to be
emphasis
foul
is
contested,
on
right?
the mark to make sure that they're leaving
Stalling
enough
5?
space.
Okay.
But
Foul.
perhaps USA working hard to
Foul.
draw
Contested.
some of these
Stalling 5.
contacts and draw some of these fouls to reset the stall count. That one is contested, back in on 5.
And Turnquist just resets the stall count by instantly dishing back to Waybright. Now towards the end zone. Phillips surely to Colton, who seems inevitable. Her 3rd goal of the game. 12-8 now. USA beginning to pull into the distance with the gold medal firmly in their sights.
Japan seem very much in this game still, but just a few errors here and there the scoreline is getting away from them. This USA side is not someone you want to be able to give an inch to, let alone multiple breaks. Japan have shown at different times in this game that they're able to get turns, but are they able to convert those to breaks? So far, it's proven elusive. Japan are going to need to dial up that defensive line offense when they generate the turns if they are going to seek to convert and get themselves back competitive in the scoreline.
Yeah, timeout being taken here again by Japan, who are in a bit of a perilous position. Of course, down 4 points. USA only needing 3 more to win, and less than 10 minutes, I should say, of game clock less. 10 seconds really would be right at the nail of things.
We've seen so many different defensive looks from Japan that have been really effective at generating turns. The US, I'm sure, having a discussion about what they're going to do on defense now, but also thinking about later on in the game how they can clean up their offense to try and limit the effectiveness of this Japanese shifting and changing defense. Japan now coming out on offense after another break.
If Japan have anything left in the playbook but they haven't pulled out, now is the time to use it, because if not now, well then when?
Yeah, looking for some Hail Mary plays perhaps. Try and get USA on the back foot. It's been an impossible task for teams despite their best efforts all through this tournament. USA looking unshakable. Similarly for Japan, put under more pressure in the quarter-final against Australia. And now here in this final, both teams gunning for gold. USA coming out that little bit stronger at this stage of the game, but can Japan find an answer?
Inside-out shape on the backhand pull from Hakimi that Japan field. A comeback here needs to start with a hold, and if it's a clean one for Japan, all the better. But they have been profligate in possession. As Hart that time just comes into contact with Takada.
Once again, all smiles as that one's quickly resolved.
Downfield too far for Hashizume, and a little bit behind Hinago as well. Japan continuing to surrender the disc too freely. Lil Phillips continuing to pump those fakes, really trying to convince defenders, but the only convincing there was the convincing block of Aya Hinago. Another Japanese timeout, because they know how important this is. That is their last timeout of the half as well. What a block that is. Can it provide the energy that Japan need for the comeback here? Current score in this women's final, USA 12, Japan 8. The 12-8 USA here in the second half of the women's final here at the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. Another tight sideline shot in front of Hashizume, who lays out and this time can't connect. They moved it at pace, but too much pace even for Hashizume. Hakimi rips it instantaneously. Defender has position and gets the tip, and the layout nearly from Dodge provided the second effort grab. Fully committed, wholehearted from both sides. Now Japan opening it up for Hashizume. That one is right into the breadbasket. Couldn't have got there any better if she just handed it off. What a throw from Matsuzaki, who has it now. This time fakes the backhand, tries to squeeze through the inside window, but head in hands because Hakimi read it superbly. The pace of this game picking up, getting a little bit frenetic out there. We'll see if USA look to slow it down on this possession. Cleo Phillips. Down the line, Earhart. Schmidt finds that inside channel through to Cleo Phillips. Looking for the around, ripped it, but I think ripped it out. And Elsa Winslow knew it as well, despite a very valiant attempt.
Heroic effort from Winslow. Unfortunately, couldn't keep her feet in bounds. Japan gifted that one back after squandering some earlier options. Once again, this is for a Japanese hold.
And it's clear what the plan has been off the timeout. It's gun it to Hashizume, and again, it's just a touch too much.
Hashizume throwing herself around, launching herself across this end zone, left, right, and center. Her team asking a lot of her, and she's putting in the plays so close every single time.
Cleo Phillips comes underneath. Matsuzaki bids, but was never going to get that. Really poaching that wide swing. Matsuzaki was aggressive in going for the foot block. They're looking deep to Dodge again, and Dodge over the top commands the deep space. Another USA break, 13-8. But I think there might be a call. I think maybe discussing whether or not she was in or out. She looked into me.
Clear as to what the call is. We're seeing some hand signals now that it's a goal, but maybe more questioning. That was a fairly brutal reception from Dodge. Straight over her head.
Oh, they're just waiting for the right timing on the resumption. So it is still 12-8. Turnquist looks at the monitor. Said it was inbounds, but it doesn't matter because the US will punch it in anyway. It's Schmidt to Hakimi, the connection. 13-8. 2 away from victory.
Before this game, we spoke to Nancy Sun, one of the USA coaches. It's her 4th cycle as a coach for this U-24 USA team. She knew that they needed to look out for Japan attacking that inside space. They know that they're going to try and move it quickly. They have this saying, react down. They know they need to get low to try and stop a lot of these Japanese looks, but so far Japan have sort of responded to the pressure that heads up USA defense have put on. You see that great reception there again. Japan have responded by playing a bit more expansively, which is no bad thing, but ultimately they're sort of playing USA at their own game here. They're really trying to rifle it into that end zone, make really big plays. Perhaps just trying to be that little bit more over-ambitious, whereas we've seen the effectiveness of that inside short play throughout this tournament. USA sort of shutting that down to a point where Japan are forced to take on shots that perhaps are a little bit outside of their comfort zone. We know that they're able to deliver a huge amount of variation on their play, but USA putting every single shot under pressure.
I mean, it is an all-star coaching staff for the United States, and I think they're showing their mettle. They've come up with a good game plan that has put Japan under so much more pressure than they have ever been before.
Japanese offense really disrupted. The playing style seems to have shifted later in this game, and we're seeing them trying to force these options, asking so much of their teammates. We know trust and sort of unity has been such an important theme for the Japanese team, but perhaps doing too much there, asking too much of each other, when really they've got themselves to this position in the tournament by working through each player, trusting the space, trusting they're going to get free, and working hard for it.
Time cap is just about to come on, so we will finish this point. Add 1 to the highest score and play to that. So we're either going to have 14-8 game to 15 or 13-9 game to 14. Rory Titcombe there with the binoculars. Maybe just try to pick out some assignments. Nancy Sung is the head coach, assistants Rory Titcombe and Sarah Griffith, which is, you know, not a bad coaching lineup. And Sarah Metzroth helped with selections as well. So lots of, I mean, they have probably, you know the phrase, they've forgotten more about Ultimate than I've probably learned. I don't know if that's true, because they probably still remember it all.
All-star cast leading and managing this USA side.
Yeah, it is an all-star coaching staff for an all-star team. As down the line, now they're swinging it around. Desperate, craving this clean hold of Japan. They've only had 2 clean holds all game. Hinago. Out in front of Morioka. Morioka with the leading pass there to Sunizumi. Just outside the end zone, a little bit of a collision there with Waybright. Still trying to find a way in. Oh, a sneaky one from Takada. Just when the defender's back was turned, punches it in 13-9. 14 is the target.
It's a hold for Japan. Critical at this stage of the game. They now are going to need to do something sensational. They've given away too many breaks earlier on. They've dug a hole they're going to need to work their way out of if they still want to go away with the gold medal, which they have said throughout this tournament from the very first game, that's their goal.
They had a couple of chances earlier in this half when it was, 9-7 to bring it back within 1. Yeah, sorry, when they were down 10-8 to bring it back to 10-9. I'm just looking through the game script.
Yeah, they had 2 break opportunities in that point. The score was 10-8, and they generated 2 opportunities to get a break back, keeping them within 1. That would have been a really significant momentum shift at that point of the game, but it wasn't to be. The scoreline is 13-9, game to 14. USA having the task of just having to put 1 more in. Japan need to get a block, and they need to do something with it. And that's just the start.
If USA can march it down, it will be gold. Can Japan throw a final sting in the tail? All the way back to Chang. If you remember right back to the first point, she gave the disc to the short field to Japan, who broke. But since then, it seems like it's been all USA. Flores to Chang, who continues to anchor the offense here as that centre handler. And they've still got a fair few cycles at U-24s as well, because they were, again, part of that victorious under-20 side out in Wrocław last year at the JJUC. Steph Phillips just sits that one beautifully for Birdsong. Now Cleo Phillips, Stacey Gaskell could look to end this in style. They've put it up, they want to end it in dominant fashion, but it is not to be, because Asuka Katagiri had a read, had the beat on it, and beats it down for a Japanese disc.
Phillips' eyes were spinning. Gold medals. Perhaps a little bit too ambitious on that one. Katagiri was so well positioned, really fought to maintain that space. Getting the block back for Japan. That could have been the win for Team USA, but Japan still keeping them under pressure, but alas.
Erica Birdsong gets it back. A second chance. It might be the last chance. Chang. Again, the whip in the arm with those fakes. Brilliant distribution, scything it through that front line. Cuts it through to Cleo. Now Heko. Dishing off. Just trying to play it around the back. I think this time they might wait for the perfect opportunity after that previous turn. They're happy to swing back and forth until then. They will inch their way forward if they need to. Flores. Chang doesn't like the little inside slash through there from Heko. Going back to Flores. Trying to maybe get some give-go action, but Japan has forced US back to midfield. Now Gaskell comes into the handler set to provide an extra option. Back to Chang. They've got Birdsong wide on the far sideline. That's where they go. And the backhand play down the line to Gaskell for the win. The United States of America have gold again. USA 14, Japan 9, final score.
It seemed like an inevitability. USA getting that block back, run through defense from Birdsong, and then just treasuring, holding, recycling the disc. Japan managed to push them back. That defense from Japan's been so effective at containing USA and all other teams. They've come up against it, but ultimately USA able to keep their cool, work through their systems as their coach wanted them to do, finding space on that far sideline and putting that in for the gold medal.
Yeah, Birdsong got the block, and then we've seen her do the majority of her damage in the end zone, but uncorked the backhand blade, judged it to perfection, and Gaskell puts a bow on proceedings. 14-9 is the final score, a third successive gold medal for the USA, and I think until anyone beats them, they will continue to be the favourites from now until forever.
Yeah, a very dominant performance from the US. We had so much hope in this Japanese team. We could see the style and the execution that they brought to the game. So many interesting and creative defensive looks, such calmness and steadiness on offense throughout this tournament. But the USA, just the might and the sort of certainty and confidence they bring to the game, it's really, really phenomenal. And as you say, we're always looking to see if anyone is going to be able to knock them off that top spot. We saw the US take the gold in the mixed division this morning, the US take the gold in the women's division now, and later on this afternoon we'll see if the open team have it in them too.
Yeah, looking to get the clean sweep of medals, the United States, but of course there is one more final to come. Let's talk to one of the players of the game here for the United States. 3 goals and 3 assists for Abby Heko. Can you put it into words how it feels?
I am just so proud of all of the work that we put in. We are such a deep team, and it feels so good knowing that we got to really use all of our depth and not just like grind 7 people into the ground. Everyone was out there working hard, and it feels really good.
In the early stages of that game, the first point, Japan came out and managed to get a break off of you guys.
Yes.
What was going through your head, and how did you guys really keep concentration to then bring the game back and keep it so competitive?
Yeah, a main theme for us is pressure builds. We know that we apply a lot of pressure on D, and we have a lot of trust and faith that if we continue to apply pressure on the best players here, eventually we're going to cause turns. And I think like after we got broken that first point, there was just like so much confidence in our D that we would like get it back and get turns and get Ds, and I really think we like proved that we could do that.
Speaking to Nancy Sun before the game, one of the key phrases she told us was about reacting down, getting low reactions and trying to stop and shut down the inside game of Japan, and you certainly disrupted them, I think, more than any side have before. Do you think you were able to kind of put that plan into action well?
Yeah, I think we really tried to put that action into plan, and I think they were still hitting a lot of insides. They were still hitting those like outside and deep shots. We really tried our best to shut it down, but at the end of the day, like that's their bread and butter. They're very good at it, and we tried our hardest. I think they like came out with a lot went their way, a lot went our way, but I think we tried our best to stop it.
So we saw this morning USA take gold in the mixed division. You secure gold for your country now, and of course the open final still to come. What do you think a team needs to do to knock USA off of this perch, or do you think it's USA unstoppable?
I don't know. I'm hoping it's USA unstoppable, so I'm excited to watch our open team ball out.
We shall see how it all plays out. Thank you very much for joining us, Abby. Congratulations again. Get back into the Spirit Circle and celebrate.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Delighted to be joined by Abby Hecko, who was phenomenal, one of many standouts for that US side. There is the story of the game stats. 6 break chances for Japan, and they only punched in the one on that very first point. The D got so much pressure for the United States, and I think their O-lines maybe come under a little bit of criticism with some things to clean up, but when they can get the D out there, they are so suffocating for teams to fight against.
Yeah, definitely. Japan, phenomenal in the pressure and the containment that they put on. They managed to generate those turns that we saw time and time again. Such strong defensive work, and yet unable to put them in, get those on the scoreboard after that first point. USA, as mentioned by Abby Hecko there, working so hard to keep applying the pressure, forcing turnovers, forcing missed throws, and ultimately giving USA the edge they needed to take that one away.
Both sides gave it their all in this final, as they assured us that they would, and you know what, they were not lying. There were huge plays, big bids from both sides. The USA didn't always get hit on that deep game, but Japan put up a good fight, and they won. Both sides, I think, won their fair share of battles both ways. In the end, Birdsong to Gaskell, 14-9 final score. Another gold medal for the USA here in the women's division. The executive producer of the World Flying Disc Federation 2023 World Under-24 Ultimate Championships is Tim Rockwood. Ulti-World Editor-in-Chief Charlie Eisenhood is lead producer, and Ulti-World Director of Video Aidan Shapiro-Layton is lead director. Our game producers are Lindsay Sue and Dana Matson, and executive in charge of production is WFDF Vice President Brian Kissel. On behalf of all of us, and for Rachel Douglas alongside me, Benjamin Rees, we shall see you on the other side for the open final.